beautiful CEO brought a beggar home, not knowing he was the richest man in the world. She had no idea he was the father of her child. Sophia Laurent ruled a billion-dollar beauty empire with precision and authority. She was admired for her elegance and feared for her discipline. Investors called her ruthless. The media called her untouchable. But the night she stopped her chauffeured car and invited a silent beggar into her gated mansion, everything she controlled began to unravel. He wore torn clothes and carried nothing but exhaustion in his eyes. Yet, he looked at her home like someone who had once owned entire worlds. She saw a man with nowhere to go. But he watched her with a familiarity that made her chest tighten. She believed she was offering charity. The beggar studied her like a memory he had never released. She thought she was protecting her image as a powerful CEO. But the moment her young son stared at the man and whispered, "Why does he look like me?" something dangerous shifted in the air. The beggar said nothing, but his silence carried secrets heavy enough to shatter empires. Sophia didn't know she had just brought the richest man in the world into her home. She didn't know his disappearance had once shaken global markets. And she didn't know the child sleeping upstairs was the reason he had come back at all. So why was the richest man alive, living as a beggar? Why did he let the woman he loved believe he had vanished forever? And what happens when a beauty CEO discovers that the man she rescued is the father of her child? Because the truth wasn't lost. It was waiting to be recognized. The man stood barefoot on the marble steps of Aurora Luxe headquarters. Late afternoon sunlight reflected off glass walls worth more than most countries' GDPs. The building was Sophia Laurent's kingdom. 42 floors of innovation labs, executive offices, and private boardrooms where billion-dollar decisions were made before lunch. Sophia exited through the revolving doors with practiced calm. Her tailored coat rested perfectly on her shoulders. Her posture alone could silence an entire room. At 32, she had transformed Aurora Luxe from a near-bankrupt boutique brand into a global beauty empire valued at over $8 billion. Investors called her ruthless. The media called her untouchable. Employees whispered that she never slept. None of them knew she woke every night at 3:17 a.m., her hand instinctively reaching for a space that had been empty for 5 years. The beggar didn't move when he saw her. That was the first crack. Most people reacted when they recognized Sophia Laurent. They straightened up, smiled too eagerly, lifted phones for photos. This man simply watched her. His gaze was steady, almost gentle. His coat was threadbare, his hair slightly overgrown, but his stance was disciplined, balanced, military, maybe, or something far more trained than survival. Security stepped forward. "Sir, you can't stand here." "She doesn't like that," the man said quietly. The guard froze. "Excuse me?" Sophia stopped walking. "What did you say?" Her voice was calm, but the air shifted the way it did before hostile takeovers. The man's eyes flicked briefly toward the entrance, where a faint floral scent drifted from inside. "You switched cleaning vendors last year," he said softly. "The lavender oil still triggers your migraines." Her breath caught. Only one person had ever noticed that. Years ago. In a different country. In a different life. "That's enough," she said sharply, though her heart was already racing. "Who are you?" The man hesitated, as if weighing truth against damage. "Someone who owes you an apology." Before she could respond, Leo leaned forward in his stroller, studying the man with unsettling focus. His dark eyes, too observant for a 4-year-old, tracked the man's face, then his hands. "Mommy," Leo whispered, clutching her sleeve. "Why does he look like me?" The man's jaw tightened, just for a second. A crack in armor no beggar should possess. Sophia laughed too quickly. "He doesn't, sweetheart." But she knew children didn't imagine bone structure or familiarity. Security cleared his throat. "Ma'am, should we escort him away?" Sophia looked at the man again, at the way he stood slightly angled toward Leo, instinctively shielding him from traffic. "No," she said. "I'll handle this." The man met her eyes. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition without memory. Connection without context. "I won't stay long," he said. "I just needed to see that you were real." Her throat tightened. "Have we met?" A pause, long enough to matter. Silence stretched between them. "Get in the car," she said finally. Inside the custom-built, soundproof vehicle, silence thickened. Hand-stitched leather. Reinforced glass. Total privacy. The man sat stiffly, hands resting on his knees, absorbing the quiet like someone who had gone without it for years. "You're not comfortable in luxury," Sophia said, watching him in the reflection. "I'm not uncomfortable. he replied. There's a difference. She frowned. What's your name? A pause. Longer this time. Ethan, he said. Just Ethan. Leo smiled. I'm Leo. Ethan's breath caught, barely audible, but his eyes softened in a way that made Sophia's chest ache for reasons she didn't understand. That's a strong name, Ethan said. It suits you. The car pulled away. City lights slid past as the distance between the tower and the man shrank in ways Sophia couldn't quantify. She told herself this was temporary. One night, a calculated risk. Good optics, if nothing else. But when they arrived at her estate, a sprawling modern mansion tucked behind iron gates and private security, Ethan didn't react the way she expected. No awe, no hesitation. Just a quiet stillness, like someone returning to a place he had once imagined losing forever. This is my home, Sophia said, sharper than necessary. You'll stay in the guest house. Of course, Ethan replied easily. Too easily. Inside, staff moved discreetly. Their eyes flicked toward the stranger, but no one asked questions. Sophia had trained them well. Control was her currency. As she handed Ethan a towel and fresh clothes, their fingers brushed. A jolt shot through her. Sudden, invasive images flashed in her mind. Snow-covered mountains. Candlelight. Laughter echoing off stone walls. A man whispering her name in the dark. She pulled back, shaken. You can shower, she said quickly. Dinner will be sent out. Tomorrow you leave. Ethan studied her face like he was memorizing it. You're still afraid of silence, he said softly. That hasn't changed. Her eyes snapped up. You don't know me. He didn't argue. Later that night, Sophia watched the guest house security feed from her office. Ethan stood alone in the living room, staring at the fireplace. His shoulders sagged, just slightly. Then he whispered, barely audible through the speakers. You kept it. Sophia's breath caught. On the mantel sat a small ceramic fox, cracked, imperfect, insignificant to anyone else. Except it wasn't insignificant. It was the only thing she had brought back from a life she told herself never existed. The alert chimed softly, polite, almost harmless. But Sophia felt it in her bones before security spoke. Ma'am, we have an unidentified vehicle near the east perimeter. No plates. Engine still warm. Ethan's posture changed instantly. Not panic. Preparation. He crossed the room and glanced through the window, scanning angles, shadows, blind spots. The beggar disappeared. In his place stood a man who understood threat patterns. Take Leo to the safe room, he said. Sophia stiffened. You don't give orders in my house. Ethan turned to her, voice low but urgent. This isn't about pride. It's about timing. Timing. 5 years ago in Switzerland, he had said the same thing the night before he vanished. Timing matters more than courage. Who are they? She demanded. Not killers, he said after a beat. Not yet. Observers. They're confirming something. Confirming what? That I'm here. Her blood ran cold. She moved quickly, lifting Leo from his bed as he stirred awake. I've got you, she whispered, pressing a kiss to his hair. Inside the safe room, reinforced steel, biometric lock, no windows. She glanced back. Ethan stood deliberately visible in the hallway. You're not coming? She asked. I need them to see me, he replied. Not you. The door sealed with a quiet hiss. Inside, Leo clutched her shirt. Is he my daddy? The question landed gently. Too gently. Sophia swallowed. Why would you ask that? Leo frowned. He smells like home. Tears burned her eyes. Outside, Ethan stepped into the courtyard, letting the security cameras capture him fully. Somewhere beyond the trees, a lens zoomed in. A message was sent. A confirmation rippled through networks that hadn't moved in 5 years. Ethan Cole was alive, and the world noticed. Back in the safe room, Sophia's thoughts spiraled. She had trusted Marcus Hale. He had appeared when she needed capital most, after Leo's birth, when exhaustion blurred judgment and survival outweighed caution. A man offering help at the right moment was rarely coincidence. The intercom buzzed again. Vehicle retreating. Minutes later, Ethan entered. Calm, grim. They'll be back, he said. With leverage, Sophia studied him. You didn't just disappear, she said quietly. You went to war, yes, and I just brought it to your doorstep. Leo yawned, curling into her chest, unaware of the tectonic shift happening beneath his small world. Sophia straightened. Then you're not leaving, she said. Not until I understand everything. Ethan met her gaze. Then I'll tell you the truth. All of it. Morning came without softness. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen island as Sophia stood with untouched coffee. Ethan faced her. I wasn't born Ethan, he said quietly. That name was the last thing I chose for myself. She folded her arms. Start from the beginning. I was born Ethan Cole the V. My family controls Cole Global Holdings, energy grids, satellite systems, defense logistics. Trillions, not billions. She didn't react outwardly. Inside, the puzzle pieces began clicking into place. The retreat where we met, he continued, wasn't just innovation. It was a vetting ground. People who could influence markets without knowing who they were shaping them for. And me? She asked steadily. You were never a target, he said. You were unexpected. Memory surged. Late-night debates by the fire. His refusal to discuss money. The way he flinched when she joked about wealth. You disappeared, she whispered. I chose your life over mine. He told her about the betrayal. A trusted uncle leaking his movements. An assassination attempt disguised as an accident. A board vote. Disappear or risk global instability. So you became a ghost. Yes, he said. And I watched. He had watched her rise through business journals under assumed identities. Watched Aurora Lux grow. Watched her protect Leo fiercely, never once exploiting motherhood for sympathy. I didn't come back for power, Ethan said. I came back because someone recognized who you really are. Marcus, she said. Yes. Leo padded into the room, climbed onto Ethan's lap without hesitation. You came back, Leo murmured. I did. Sophia watched them, heart cracking open. Years of absence. One morning of truth. Still danger close. If Marcus confirms who you are, she said, you won't be able to hide. Then we control the reveal, she replied before he could continue. For the first time since returning, Ethan smiled, not as a beggar, but as a man who had found an equal. By mid-morning, Sophia stood at the head of Aurora Lux's executive boardroom. 12 people waited. Investors, legal counsel, and Marcus Hale. Impeccable suit. Controlled smile. The kind of man who made generosity feel like debt. We'll begin, Sophia said crisply. This meeting is no longer about expansion. It's about security. Marcus lifted an eyebrow. Security? Yes, she replied, sliding a folder across the table. Specifically why a board member authorized a private investigation into my personal life. A ripple moved through the room. Marcus didn't reach for the folder. I was protecting my investment, he said smoothly. You're unconventional. Single mother. Rapid influence growth. It raises questions. Questions you had no right to ask. His gaze flicked briefly toward the glass wall. Outside, Ethan stood near a black SUV. Clean now, composed, unmistakably commanding. No torn clothes, no disguise. Marcus smiled slowly. So you found what you were looking for, Sophia said evenly. I found confirmation, he replied. The air tightened. Outside, Ethan's encrypted phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. Markets were stirring. You know how many people are interested in the return of a man who controls half their infrastructure? Marcus said quietly. Sophia didn't blink. Do you know how many people underestimate a woman who built an empire while raising a child alone? Marcus chuckled. This doesn't have to be adversarial. It already is. He leaned back. The world will know who he is within 48 hours. With or without your consent. Sophia stood. Then this meeting is over. As the room emptied, Marcus lingered. You should have stayed small, he said. She met his gaze. You should have stayed honest. Outside, Ethan joined her. He knows, he said. Yes, and he thinks he controls the timing. Ethan looked out over the city. Then we take that away from him. Above them, news alerts began flashing across global screens. A rumor, a name, a ghost stirring. The fracture had begun. The world didn't explode. It fractured. Sophia stood inside Aurora Lux's private media room as headlines shifted from speculation to disbelief. Financial analysts leaned forward on live broadcasts. Market tickers stuttered, then froze. A name appeared across screens worldwide. Ethan Cole. Presumed dead. Now alive. Sophia muted the volume. Across the room, Ethan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching nothing in particular. He didn't need the screens. He felt it, the way generals feel armies moving before the first shot is fired. Once this is public, Sophia said quietly, you can't go back to being invisible. Ethan nodded. I never planned to. Leo sat cross-legged on the couch, surrounded by tablets, cartoons playing unnoticed. His attention was on Ethan. Children recognize truth faster than adults. Are you famous? Leo asked. Ethan crouched in front of him. I used to be. Leo tilted his head. Will you still pick me up from school? A pause. Ethan smiled. Real, soft, unguarded. Every day, if you'll let me. The smile didn't reach his eyes. Outside the estate, consequences were already forming. Sophia's phone vibrated relentlessly. Board members, government liaisons, competitors, suddenly eager to collaborate. Power shifted quickly when certainty entered the room. Marcus just sold his shares. Her assistant reported over secure line. To a shell company. Ethan's jaw tightened. He's consolidating or running, Sophia said. Marcus doesn't run, Ethan replied. He builds exits. They move together now, not as past lovers, not yet fully as family, but as aligned forces. Ethan reopened encrypted channels he had sealed years ago. He called in people who owed him loyalty not because of wealth, but because he had once protected them when it mattered. Sophia prepared her counterstrike, timed press releases, legal filings, regulatory triggers designed to drop like dominoes when markets opened. That night, she found Ethan on the balcony. The city stretched beneath him like a living circuit board. You could have taken everything back by force, she said. Why didn't you? Because power taken too fast breaks things you can't fix, he replied. Including people? He turned toward her. Especially you. In the distance, sirens wailed. Not close. Not yet. The attack didn't arrive with warning. It arrived with silence. The house lights flickered once. Then again. Ethan was already moving. Safe room. Now, Leo was asleep, curled tightly around his stuffed fox. Ethan lifted him with practiced ease, not like something fragile, but something sacred. Sophia followed, heart pounding as reinforced doors sealed behind them. On the monitors, perimeter systems failed one by one. Not hacked, overridden. Marcus, she whispered. Ethan nodded. If he can't control the story, he'll control the fear. Black vehicles approached the estate gates. Clean, unmarked, contractors, disposable. Sophia's breath trembled. This is my fault. Ethan turned sharply. No, this is the cost of my name. A memory flashed through him. 5 years earlier, a boardroom drowned in artificial light. Disappear, or everyone you love becomes leverage. He had chosen exile. Yet here they were. The first explosion shattered the east gate. Leo stirred, frightened. Daddy. The word hit harder than any blast. Ethan knelt, pressing his forehead to Leo's. I'm here, he said steadily. And I'm not leaving again. Sophia watched, tears falling silently. This was the cost she had never calculated. Not money, not power, time. Outer wing breached, security reported. Ethan stood, every line of him resolving into purpose. I need 10 minutes. Sophia grabbed his arm. You can't face them alone. I'm not, he said gently. I'm ending this. He stepped out. The door sealed. Through the monitors, Sophia watched him move through chaos with terrifying precision. Not reckless, not brutal, precise. He disarmed, redirected, neutralized. Each movement carried years of training hidden beneath torn clothes and silence. On one security feed, Marcus appeared remotely, watching. You should have stayed dead, Marcus muttered. Ethan looked directly into the camera. You should have stayed loyal. 10 minutes later, silence returned. Ethan walked back inside, bruised, bleeding slightly, but standing. It's over, he said calmly. Marcus just lost every exit he built. Leo wrapped his arms tightly around Ethan's neck. Sophia realized then this was no longer about wealth. It was about whether the man who disappeared could finally stay, and whether the woman who survived alone could trust again. Outside, dawn broke. The longest night had ended. Morning arrived quietly, almost respectfully. Marcus Hale was arrested before noon. Not publicly, not loudly. Sealed warrants. Quiet extradition. Charges that stretched across borders. By afternoon, Cole Global Holdings released a single statement. Ethan Cole had returned as majority controller and chairman. Markets reeled. Governments recalculated. The world finally understood how a beggar had shifted global balance simply by being seen. Sophia turned off the television. I don't want him growing up inside this, she said, nodding toward the screen. Neither do I, Ethan replied. They stood in silence, not heavy now, but deliberate. You disappeared once, Sophia said softly. I survived because I had to. Leo survived because I refused to break. I don't expect forgiveness because of what I own, Ethan said. I missed years I can't get back. But if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life earning the ones ahead. Leo considered this seriously. Then he smiled. Okay, he said, but you have to come to my school play. Ethan laughed, a sound the world hadn't heard in 5 years. Deal. Later that day, Sophia walked through Aurora Luxe headquarters again, not as a woman outrunning her past, but as one finally at peace with it. She addressed her board directly. No merger with Cole Global. No hidden alliances. Aurora Luxe remains independent. There was resistance. She overruled it. For the first time, she didn't need to prove she could stand alone. That evening, Sophia and Ethan stood on the balcony as city lights flickered on. The same city that once believed he was dead. The same woman who once believed she'd been abandoned. I didn't bring a beggar home, Sophia said quietly. I brought the truth home. I just didn't recognize it. Ethan took her hand. You saved me before I ever saved you. Inside, Leo slept peacefully, his fox tucked beneath his arm. The world would always know Ethan Cole as the richest man alive, but only this house would know him as something far rarer. A man who came back. A father who stayed. A love that survived power, disappearance, and time. Because sometimes the greatest fortunes aren't reclaimed in boardrooms. They're rebuilt at home. Moral of the story. True wealth isn't measured by power, money, or influence. It's measured by loyalty, sacrifice, and the courage to come back and stay. Ethan had trillions. Sophia built an empire. But the greatest thing either of them ever created wasn't a company or a fortune. It was a family worth fighting for. If this story moved you, imagine what other truths are hiding in silence. Subscribe to Momentum Stories, where power, love, and destiny collide. Because sometimes the greatest fortunes aren't made. They're rebuilt.